Should be good to go.
All right, T-Brat. You good whenever you want to. You
All
want me
right.
to start the timer again?
Start the timer.
We got to keep the timer in our pocket just so that.
We get to yapping.
Turn it on Do Not Disturb so that we don't get the buzz this time.
That's smart.
All right, in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to the Rounding Third podcast. This is episode 3 of the year 2025 with our co-host Brian Ogden. We've got a special guest today. It's the birthday girl, Morgan Bernardini, the pride of Elkville, Illinois, which your hometown in Illinois a few years ago during the big lunar, was it the lunar or the solar eclipse?
The solar eclipse.
The big solar eclipse. We had like 100% coverage in your town, right?
Yeah.
There were Earth seekers all over the place going in to check out what's going on in Elkville, Illinois. And were you in high school then?
I was. It happened twice.
Happened twice. So what are the odds? A little slither of Southern Illinois, the hometown of Morgan Bernardini, the big eclipse coming over, and it's such a rare thing. And, you know, a rarity. I had a good joke. I'm not going to say. I need to pause that. Anyway, and we're back.
That's now
We'll have
2 weeks,
to clean
2
that
weeks
up.
in a row that we have
Yep.
to restart.
We'll have to clean that part
the
up.
lead in.
But anyway, the pride of Elkville, Illinois, Morgan Bernardini, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, happy birthday, Mo.
Thank you.
I told Mr. Coach T-Brat we should have gotten you a birthday cake or a cupcake or something, but then we'd have to eat it on air, and I figured
Yeah.
you wouldn't like that and get on to me. So.
No, we don't have to do that.
And then when you're wearing white, I'm probably going to spill chocolate or something on it, and it's going to just ruin the outfit. So.
Well,
course.
you're not quite as clumsy as Coach Ricketts when she's wearing
That's
white.
true.
But
That's
you
true.
did have the biggest spill on the bus so far this year.
Actually, that was Coach Ricketts that had that spill.
You just caught the
I caught the spill. I tried to keep it, all the smoothies from going everywhere. But yes, that did happen in Clearwater. But hey, it must have been an omen because we went on to get another ranked win that weekend.
We did. Just let's not make a habit of it.
True. I don't think Mr. Everett or Mr. Joe would like that too much.
No,
So.
not at all.
All right, Moby, a big night last night, career night, 4 RBIs, big 3-run home run in a tight game. And then, of course, the double that kind of really extended the lead. We talk about extending the lead a lot, but kind of walk us through the night that you had at the plate last night.
Yeah, I said it in my post-game interview, too. We were talking in the outfield after my single, and Key was like, Mo, what do you kind of think in this game? She was like, I'm just trying to have fun. And I was like, yeah, me too. I'm just trying to, keep seeing the ball. And put my swing on the ball, on a good pitch. And that's kind of where I was. I wasn't trying to get too big. Home runs come. They don't, if you go up there trying to hit a home run, you're going to, that's not going to end very well. So, I was just trying to see the ball and just put my swing on it and, good things happen.
They do. And it was, we had a big hit earlier in the game. Kylie Edwards, number 1, got a great bunt down to move runners to second and third. And then Riley Hull, your roommate, came through with a big opposite field single to left center, scored them both, and really kind of got us up and running. Pitcher for Sanford can be pretty tough. We faced her last year, twice actually last year. Has a really good mixes in the off speed, has the kind of the drop in and the low rise in, really commanded that side of the plate early on. And, of course, when she goes drop away, it's kind of a pretty good little attack to both sides of the plate. So you put a good swing on the looked like a drop curve away, your first at bat. That's what led to the double. Gave us a run. Greta Grassel from Wisconsin, freshman from Wisconsin, came in, ran for Sosa after Sosa's double, and was able to score on that. So that was huge. And then they were like, well, we can't get her out off the play. We got to come in. And then you put a good swing on the ball, kind of middle in, and hit it out to left field. The Yakkertech data had it 244 feet. What was it, a 38-degree launch angle?
Yeah.
So one of those, there wasn't a whole lot of wind help yesterday, so you got every bit of it to get it out of the yard, especially on a cold night. We've had a little bit of an Arctic blast, if you will, kind of the rare Arctic blast. And
Well, it was the snowman, Mr. Coach T-Brat.
it was. And for the first 3 days of the snowman, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it was more like, a desert type weekend. It was 78 degrees, sunny, breezy, felt good. And then Sunday, the snowman lived up to its name. We had the 40-degree shift. I think the feels like was somewhere in the low 30s on Sunday. But although the temperatures were cold, the dogs' bats were hot. See what I did there? Yeah, so had several run rule victories this weekend. Really got the sticks going. Started seeing some things kind of come to life toward the end of Clearwater last weekend. And then we really just got the offense rolling starting on Thursday with Southern Illinois.
Yeah, so for the tournament, you mentioned the run rule wins, but had a home run and a stolen base in every game. You'll like this number. The team OPS was 1206. So, getting it done both with the long ball and the doubles, but also taking walks. And we talked right before the show that we're 14th in the country in walks now after last night. So Bulldogs have been patient hitters and waiting for their pitch, and even when they're not getting it, they're finding their way on base.
Yeah, then those are huge. We take a lot of pride in getting on base whatever way you can, whether it be the walk or the HBP or putting pressure on the defense, getting on first with an error. Styles had one of those that led to an extended run down in Clearwater that kind of gets overlooked in the Penn State game, but if she doesn't beat that out to 2, then Sacco's triple doesn't score, or actually her double. She tried to go to 3 on that. It doesn't score. So every run it matters, and I think we take a lot of pride in trying to touch home plate as much as we possibly can. But yeah, the walks are huge. Anytime you can have those ingredients, we talk about this a lot with our team. What are the ingredients of a big inning? And it's some version of a walk, HBP, or error, some combination of the 3. And if you can get those going, that's where you see these 3 spots come up. And we had a lot of those this weekend. It was prevalent again last night. Sierra Sacco and Jesse Blaine here lately have done a tremendous job understanding the strike zone, being experts with the umpire zone that particular day. Key Sales is another one in the 3-hole for us. She just keeps, working her way up, and everything she hits seems to be hard contact every time she swings the bat. Getting on base via the walk, she's got good speed too. So just a lot of different ways we can kind of create some havoc. It comes with the stolen base sometimes too, but I think being able to score from first or score easily from 2 on sharp singles kind of gives us a chance to be a little bit more of a potent offense.
So as we dive into the actual weekend, we mentioned last show the key number being 5 runs.
Yep.
Every game scored 5 runs. You're now 127-15 under Ricketts when scoring at least 5, and in almost 80% of your wins over the last 2 years, you've scored at least 5 runs. So obviously we talked about the big inning, but that's kind of been the magic number. As we go into Southern Illinois, game didn't start out quite the way that you wanted. Down 3 runs at the bottom of the first inning, ended up scoring 10 unanswered to win that game. And a lot of the message that night was talking about picking up teammates and how you pick each other up. Even when maybe Josie didn't have her best start, you had Lexi come in and she threw a career high 103 pitches, matched her career high in strikeouts, and really just kind of settled everything down, took control of that game, and gave you guys a chance to get back in it. So, the other side of that, and the kind of human side of that picking each other up, is that was also a chance for Delaney to get her first action this year. And I know we've talked a little bit here and there about just what she has had to go through to start the season with the passing of her father. And I wanted to ask you, I know you're close with her as well, just how has this team gotten so close? Because you see the pick each other up on the field, but there's also that element of picking each other up off the field. And just how has this team gotten so close?
Yeah, I think it's been a lot of factors. I think we have faced a lot of adversity from the outside, whether it be Raylan in the fall with her cancer diagnosis, with Riley's car accident in December, with Delaney and the passing of her father. We have faced all of this different types of adversity, and a lot of the times you would expect teams to, hey, I'm glad you're okay, and then let's get back to work. But we truly care about each other, and I feel like this has taken, for me personally, and I think for most of us, this has given us the aspect of softball is just a little picture compared to the big picture of our whole life. And I think we've really taken that and ran with it and said Raylan, we have senior speeches before season starts, and she said this, she wrote 3-4 weeks ago. And it stuck with me so much of her journey through this diagnosis and stuff. And she was talking to her mom, and her mom was like, Ray, if you had a bad day at softball and that's your only problem, then you have a pretty good life. And I think that we can continue to use that. And it's just all of us coming together. Delaney, of course, she went home after she found this out, and Josie's the first one to speak up, and she's like, hey guys, let's come over, let's make her cards, let's do things like this. We come up with the idea hey, let's go pick her up at the airport. Let's surprise her. Let's make her posters. We get to Clearwater. We have practice that night. We're running late. We go out to eat. We don't get back to the hotel until 10:30. And everyone's in Riley's room because Delaney was her roommate at the time. So everyone's in there. We're not even tired. We're just excited to see her. It was 2 weeks that we didn't see her. And we just take pride in being so close and knowing that we're more than just softball players on and off the field, and just knowing that there's more to life than softball, and we're here to make lifelong friends, and these friendships are gonna last. So we're just taking those seriously, and that's important to us.
Yeah, and that's something in my role, I get to do a lot of kind of communicating with alumni and coming back and telling stories of players who have come through this program. And that's something that always comes up.
Yeah.
When you talk to like the 80s ladies who we got to see down in Clearwater, and we were working on things with them for Girls and Women in Sports Day right before the season. And every one of them is like, yeah, you know, the softball was great, but like I've made friends that now 40 years later, we still all road trip together to Clearwater and sit down and watch the team play. Like it is very much about that relationship. And it's a highly competitive environment, T-Brat, you know that. And like nobody's taking away from what's going on the field, but there is an element to where it's also about the bonds that you build with your teammates and how you guys, it almost frees you up to play better.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think Coach Rigas does a tremendous job in that. You mentioned the senior spotlight, something we started doing really since we got the new building 2 years ago, and just kind of giving the seniors a mic. You know, a lot of times we have a lot of freshman impact players right now, freshmen that are getting in, getting some key opportunities, and it might be nerve-wracking for an 18-year-old coming into their first game, and it'd be a Texas Tech matchup with Nyjah Kennedy. It might be tough on certain scenarios where you've never really been in that chair before, but having seniors that have been through there before. Last year, you guys getting to hear from Madison Kennedy, getting to hear from this year a Sierra Sacco, a Jesse Blaine, folks that may have had some different journeys to get here, but knowing that, hey, once upon a time, they were 18 years old too. And the things that you're feeling as you're getting ready for a big moment or whatever the case may be, somebody else has been there already. And I think that's just a senior spotlight that's been invaluable here the last couple of years. And I think it maybe gives you some solace to some youngsters that, hey, you know, I can do and have success like they've had because they've been in my shoes before and they've been able to get to the other side too.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of your story. Not a senior yet, but your journey's been one that can help some of those younger players along too, and we'll dive into that after we kind of wrap up the weekend. But Saturday, 2 games. North Texas, another run rule win, 14-5. Bradley, 5-3 game. First time that we had a multi-homer game this year.
Yep.
Down in Clearwater, the ball wasn't carrying quite as much, but you mentioned it's getting out of the yard here at News Park. And then we talked about Raylan's streak. It did finally end in that game at 25 innings without an earned run. That's the longest we've ever had in the modern era to start a career. And she's still running on a 6-game win streak, 6-appearance win streak, which is also the longest we've ever had since '97. So, but that game, that day, it turned to be the stolen base day. There were a lot of stolen bases. Riley stole 3 bases across the 2 games. The team had 5 against Bradley. So you talked about the importance of base running and the little things. You already mentioned Morgan Stiles beating out the 1 ball, taking the extra base. How have you, because I know this is kind of your pride and joy area, how have you seen this team become better base runners?
Well, I think from the beginning, it goes back to recruiting. It goes back to evaluating players, evaluating talent, the type of athletes we want to have in our program. And, you know, when you're going through the evaluation process, and it's something we used to say, it's more evaluation than it is recruiting. I know recruiting is the big buzzword, but are you identifying the right players you want to have in your program? And the more tooled up players we can have, the better our chances are going to be. And you want to try to get as many 5-tool players as you can. We understand that not every player is a 5-tool player, but the closest we can have to folks that can really run, that can really hit for average, that can really hit for power, that can defend at a high level, you know, has a good arm that can throw people out and throw it across the diamond. Those things are measurables we're looking at when we're identifying athletes when they're 15, 16, 17 years old, sometimes through the portal if you get a portal kid that comes in with that too. But I think the more tools you have, the better our chances are of doing little things right that's going to give us a chance to score more runs. And you're right, it's kind of led to some more stolen bases this year. I think going into the weekend where we're 17 of 19, something like that. And I think anything over a 78 or 80% success rate is something that gives you a chance to, hey, we can continue to hit the gas and push the envelope in terms of trying to swipe bags. And you're really seeing it, you know, Sierra Sacco has kind of always been a stolen base threat. But you're seeing it more kind of scattered throughout the lineup now. You've got a stolen base. Nadia's got stolen bases. Riley's got 3 this year. You just keep on going down the line, and there's several that have come in. Kalani's got a stolen base. Key's got a stolen base. I think at any given moment, you can have some freedom on the base pass to do some things. And a lot of those kind of run into our offensive approach too. If you know that you got the right hitters in the box, you know that, hey, you're okay with maybe taking a strike to get a runner in score position because you're confident that a Nadia Barber can come in and drive in Sierra Sacco after she swipes 2. You know, I think those are things that kind of gives us a chance to score some runs. And We definitely want to get the lead early. We talk about a lot of pillars of success, our success points, process points we talk about, and kind of getting that lead is something that we're shooting for early on. And then if we can extend it with pressure on the base pass, scoring on gappers from first. We've had some sack flies that weren't particularly deep this year, and I think those are ways we can just kind of push the envelope. And maybe teams don't think you're taking that extra base, but we take a lot of pride in taking that extra base. We talk about being the mentality of a thief, winning the 60 feet. Those are little things we discuss quite at length, especially with our PowerPoint. I always say we use PowerPoint just to keep me on task, not you. The PowerPoint's for me, not for you, but we do take a lot of pride in the fall, particularly teaching the out rules and teaching different things we're looking for on how we want to attack on the bases. And I think you're seeing us do a pretty good job offensively with that slice of the offensive piece, and that's the base running piece.
You had a little look of pride there when you mentioned your stolen base. So, quick trivia question for you, Mr. Coach T. Brett. Who is the last Bulldog to steal home?
That's a good question.
She is in the room with us
Morgan
right
Bernardini.
now. Morgan Bernardini
Oh,
is
the old double
last,
steal.
is
Yeah,
the
the double
last
steal.
Bulldog
Yeah.
that has stolen home plate. So
What can I say? I'm pretty fast.
That's
there
right.
you go.
That's
You have a
right.
little brag point for you there. Moving on again in the weekend, we get to Saturday. A run rule win against Bradley. That one was kind of a little bit of everybody game. 5 players had multiple RBIs. Every single player in the lineup, including the player in the flex who came in to run for Lexi at one point, scored a run in that game. So when you talk about a complete team effort, I don't think you can get much more complete than every single person circling the pillows. So we had 2 triples in that game, and you talked about pressing the gas and specifically Sierra Sacco. So I want to go back to one play in particular where Sierra has a triple down at the right field corner, and the windmill was going, Mr. Coach T. Brett.
Yep.
You were sending her.
Yep.
Run us through that play, the decision to maybe pull the leash back and get her back to third. Just from your perspective, Sierra's triple almost inside the park home run.
Yeah, that was she hit it in the corner, which I always tell the runners, anything from right center and behind you, I'm going to help you with, especially coming into third. Anything in front is kind of your read. I want you to, if you think you can get to 3, go ahead and get to 3. But it's kind of your read on the ball in front. But if it's, right center and back, I've got you. And it was one of those, I like to kind of backpedal down the line and really let the play develop. And Sacco was coming in hot, and she's a fast runner and all that. And I kind of could see the throw being offline just a little bit. It kind of had a high and arm side run into the cutoff. So I'm sending her. I'm giving her the point. I'm sending her, and she kind of slowed down into 3 and then picked it up again. Well, by the time she picked it up again, the second baseman threw a pretty good dart into the plate. So Sacco, being good ankle flexibility, puts the brakes on, dives back into 3, winds up getting safe, and what might have been. I think we had the inside the Parker. I think we did. But hey, another triple. I think her and Jessie went triples in the same inning, or maybe back-to-back innings in that game. And of course, Jessie's triples are always fun because she does the push-ups. A little shout out to her dad, the lieutenant colonel, kind of getting some push-ups in. But that's always fun to see her doing that celebration.
Yeah. And then Sunday was really the whole weekend was the Lexi show in some ways, but Sunday she kind of really came out and put on a show. So 2-run home run.
Yep.
Then she hit a grand slam. She came 1 RBI shy of the school record. That was held by Madison Kennedy, who was calling some of those games this weekend, made her debut in the broadcast booth. We should say Madison Farmer now. Madison Kennedy in the record book, Madison Farmer on the TV. Got married in the offseason. But that grand slam that she hit was projected 276 feet. It's the longest we've had at News Park this year. And I know you've really enjoyed getting to see that data. Now that we have the ability when we're at home in News Park to get the data really almost instantaneously on the exit velo, the launch angle, the carry of those balls. We're able to give it to TV, which I know they've appreciated. But talk a little bit about the what that new piece of technology has done for you guys, because I know this program's very into using their technology for player development.
Yeah, Coach Ricketts has been big from that, really from the onset, since we started working together 11 years ago. She's really been big into the tech piece, and you can kind of speak to some of this too here in just a second. But, it's not a lot of what you see from the eye, it's what can we tangibly measure. And I think when you look at our blast swings, you look at our Rapsodo stuff we do from an offensive and a defensive approach. The Yakertex is another way of adding into that. And we've got a lot of different methods that we use into kind of, how we go about our offensive approach and even our pitching approach there too in the lab. But Mississippi State, we talk a lot. We were the first school to offer athlete engineering as a degree program. We have 179 different degree programs branched out through 7 different colleges on campus. A little shout out there to the colleges on campus we have. But there's just a lot of funds that are in our athlete engineering department, and it's really a two-headed monster when you blend them and sports science in together with Marcy and our weight staff, our weight training, our strength and conditioning staff. There's a lot of unique things we have to keep our players operating at the highest level, and things that I wish we had when I was coming through in the playing days. We'd have 35 baseball players here with one strength coach. Now we've got like 6 strength and conditioning people in the weight room with our 22 players. And, I think there's just a fantastic amount of resources we have here to help our players be as good as they possibly can be. And the tech piece has been massive. And, kind of having the Yacker Tech stuff you're talking about, the launch angle things are cool. But the spin rates, having machines in our cages that we can match spin rates and match velocities with from a scouting perspective. Alyssa Losa does a tremendous job as our director of player development, really helps out a lot with the scouting reports and kind of getting us ready to go. And Coach Shaw and Coach Ricketts, too, do a tremendous job of game planning as we get ready to face a Najee Kennedy or get ready to face, the ace from Southern Illinois or Partain again last night from Sanford. And I think you're seeing a buy-in approach. And that's one thing that makes Morgan, toot your horn here a little bit. One thing that makes Morgan so special is she follows the game plan. Her and Ricketts talk a good bit. It's one of the reasons why Coach Ricketts stays in the dugout. She wants to be able to have those conversations with the on-deck batter. Hey, what are we looking for? Here's what they're going to try to do. Here's what our data is saying. Here's what our reports are saying. And it kind of just gives you an educated approach as you go in there to put together a good swing and try to manufacture runs. But yes, having the athletic engineering part, having the Yacker Tech data, particularly even in our scrimmages. We have everything on the scoreboard and it's live feedback. We know balls and strikes right away. It's popping up on the scoreboard. Hey, if that pitch that Josie threw to you, hey, was that a ball or a strike? Well, give us 2 seconds and you're going to see it on the board and it's going to call it for you. So just even little things like that has been invaluable. And I'm excited to see, where the game is continuing to go in terms of the technology piece.
Yeah, and I'm gonna jump ahead a minute because you mentioned the game plan piece, and so I had it in the notes for a little later down, but Coach Ricketts, when she was talking on the TV call, she brought you up and she mentioned there was a specific at bat in Clearwater where you kind of came up to her before you went out into the on deck circle and said, "All right, if this happens with this batter right now, this is going to be they're going to try to get me to roll over on a ball and hit a double play. They're going to be trying to throw me this pitch. I'm not going to hit it. I'm looking for this." And she kind of was paused for a minute and she was like, "Well, yeah, that's right. Like that's 100% right, Mo." So she brought it up as an example of just maturity over the years and kind of how have you seen kind of you develop that mental side of the game to kind of know what's coming and what you're looking for?
Yeah, well, that all starts in practice, truthfully. I couldn't even tell you how many times I've been in that situation for a 3-team scrimmage. T-Brat, you can attest to this, and how many times, like, either Loza or Zach or even live, like, they're, like, pounding me. Josie, of course, with her drop ball, gets me every time. I've hit against her for 3 years and have probably had 5 hits off of her. But, yeah, it just starts in practice, and it starts with our mindset and our game plans. Ricketts and T-Brat, like, everyone does such a great job at, like, talking through the game with us and teaching us. Like, freshman year, I had no idea that, we would have a game plan. We would, know what kind of swing I have on what certain pitch, And so, like, it's just helping me develop as a player, and it's also helping me develop mentally, like, on the side of the being kind of in, like, the pitcher's head, like, knowing that situation. And truthfully, like, I say things out loud because it's more of, like, kind of more so, like, a confidence thing. Like, I'm going to tell you, so now I'm like, actually going to go do it. So that's all I was doing. She threw me, like, a ball inside. I took it. I told myself I was taking all the inside half until I had 2 strikes when I had to swing at it. And she threw me a changeup on the outer half, so I just poked it through. But, yeah, Ricketts has helped me so much on the, at-bats and, like, at the plate with the mental side of game plans and stuff. It's crazy.
We can talk about it now that it's over, but you had a career-long 7-game hitting streak there, running for a little while. Haven't hit in 8 of 11 games this year. Kind of as that streak was going along, what was going right? Like what was it that you, like you said, just kind of see the ball, you're seeing the ball well, keep seeing the ball well. What was going right for you during that stretch of games?
Yeah, I just don't think I was trying to get too big. Like I was kind of focusing on team at bats, no matter if nobody was on or if we had bases loaded, like just trying to do a job. I think whenever we start to make the situation bigger than what it actually is, that's when we start to overthink and just kind of get sped up. And from experience, that's been happening. So I just think I'm just trying to, stay loose and just see the ball and, just not let the moment get too big.
Yeah. And along with your hitting streak, Kiara Sells has a hit in every single game. We had her on last week. We already mentioned Lexi and kind of her breakout weekend. Had 14 RBIs on the weekend, had 10 in her career coming into the weekend. So already kind of just doubling the numbers there. But you talked about it in your press conference on Sunday. The three of you kind of combined are all starting. You had 50 career at-bats coming into the season. And it's really easy to look on paper and say, this team doesn't have a ton of experience, or they're starting a lot of players that haven't seen game action. And you were quick to point out how, and again, just did, how practice has played into making you feel confident and experienced when you walk in. It doesn't feel like it's your first time starting when you're getting in the box. So just how have you been able to translate those practice reps into the game and do so smoothly?
Yeah, I think our coaches do a great job at, really harping on, like, our practice is just like a game-like situations on everything. I think we try to give them a lot of input on, what we want to see from, being an outfielder, get more live reads from the plate on, fly balls and just everything in general. So I think we do a great job at practice and even, in the cages, hitting groups. Just making sure everything's game-like. We've been hitting off the Nyjah machine for 3 weeks before we even saw her. We do a great job at preparing, and our coaches also, everyone gets their opportunity, and Ricketts, she just harped on it last night, is your time will come. So just, be ready for any position that you're put in, and just be ready on both sides of the game, both mentally and physically ready.
And T-Brett, you brought up last week, the program will take some transfers here and there, but we've really been primarily focused on developing players. So from a coaching standpoint, what is that message of kind of wait your turn, it's going to come, your opportunities are going to come, and then you can hold up examples like a Keith Sells, like a Mo Bernardini to say they put in their time, they did their work, and now look, they're getting to reap the rewards.
Yeah, and again, we pride ourselves on the evaluation piece, and it goes back to the high school recruiting. You start looking at some of our classes, we will generally take maybe a bigger freshman class just because we're not as big as a transfer portal class. And, some schools go strictly the other route. That's okay too. Just kind of hasn't been our MO. And even when you look at players like a Madison Kennedy, she was never an all-region player before she was an all-American player. Just, it's going to come together. Stay with the process. It's going to come together. She was a kid, well-documented, came in as a true freshman, left as an all-American first baseman. And you look at Alexi Sosa, too. She had one career home run, 10 total RBIs in her career, and she's a 6-year kid. She's got the COVID year, and she got a redshirt year. And you're seeing it come together now. Now people know that Lexi Sosa, and that's kind of becoming a household name, just like Madison Kennedy was before. And, I think a lot of times some of these players kind of fall under the radar in terms of the national spotlight, in terms of the national, outlets that are the media outlets and that sort of thing. And, that's never really been our MO. We're not really going to push a lot of that. We're going to let the players' actions kind of speak for themselves on that. And you're seeing it even now again with, if you poll, the rest of the coaches in the league or, the writers across the country about, hey, is Keith Sells going to be a breakout star? Well, they probably don't know a whole lot about Keith Sells. But now they're learning about Keith Sells. And it's stuff that we've kind of seen all along. We knew that the talent level has kind of always been there. It's just once you get your opportunity, kind of taking it and run with it, and you're seeing her really off to a hot start. Bernardini as well, off to a hot start, came in as an infielder, now is locking down left field. We talked about the technology piece earlier and kind of getting into motor preferences and those kinds of things. And those are just, again, another evaluation tool that we have. It's not the end-all, be-all, but it's another way we can go about making our players the best they can possibly be. And we'll even take motor preferences and move it into the outfield with the way that we go and attack balls and different angles in the outfield to try to get us to our strongest point. And, I think you're just seeing players that in the era of just hopping in the portal, and there's thousands of players in the portal, and about 40 or 50% never find a home again. That's kind of the crazy part about the portal these days. There's a large group of players that never actually find their home again, and I think it's a tribute to those that have stuck it out and have continued to put in the work and have gotten an opportunity now and have really shined. And I thought your quote last week with the media after one of our big wins, they may not know a lot about your name now, but that doesn't mean that you haven't taken 1,000 at-bats already. Same with Sales, 1,000 at-bats already in practice. We keep our stats, and it's not just off front toss. It's not off BP. It's off live scrimmages, even if it's against our pitchers. We put a lot of weight into what are you doing against our arms. Sure, we play a fall schedule, and some of those are some lighter competition in the fall schedule, so it's not necessarily about what did you do against Northeast. It's what did you do against a Josie? What did you do against an Aspen Wesley? What did you do, against a Delaney Everett, a Hartho and lefty? And those are things that we really have taken a lot of pride in. And we know that, hey, if we're able to turn around some of the arms that we have, then who's to say we can't turn it around when you get in and you get a game-winning RBI against a Nigel Kennedy with a sac fly to right. You get a Key Sales who put together multiple good swings in a row after Nigel Kennedy. And in some ways, a kid like her probably wasn't ready as an 18-year-old. But now it's kind of coming together. And we say this all the time. The good thing about freshmen is freshmen become sophomores. And you're kind of seeing a lot of this experience really pay off. And it's really fun to watch the players that have stayed true to the program and have really worked their tail off and really gotten stronger in the weight room, done the things that Marcy wanted them to do, taking a lot of pride in the nutrition stations that we have and the PNC and those types of things we have for the overall development of our players. You're kind of really seeing some of those things really shine right now.
So you're early, but for you, like kind of a mini version of your senior speech, to Bratton's point, it could have been really easy to hop in the portal. Mm-hmm. What has kind of kept you here to earn your spot, and how much faith have you had in this coaching staff that they do have a plan for my development and that it is going to lead to results?
Yeah, I think truthfully, freshman year, T-Brat, Ricketts, they believed in me more than I did, some days at practice. And, that, it just kind of had to happen, there had never been a day where I thought that, they didn't care about me. I would come home from practice and I'd be like, Dad, I'd, be on the phone with my dad and he's like, how's practice going? And I'm like, T-Brat's, sailing balls over my head, I can't catch them. And he's like, well, you're in trouble when he stops doing it. When he stops yelling at you, when he stops, pushing you to succeed. And I think that was one thing that has just, kept me going because obviously, I have never doubted that anybody here, doesn't want me to succeed. And so it was just, me mentally telling myself, hey, you're, be patient. The Lord has a plan for you. Stick it out. Trust in Him. Trust in everybody around you. And just, knowing that there is, a purpose for me being here. And sometimes it can be bigger than softball, and sometimes it, can just be the game. But, yeah, it's just one thing is here. It's, it's hard to not feel, involved and included. We have such a good, even, our teams, from, the previous years, freshman year, I've had such great role models growing up from, Chloe in left field, from Briley, from Jackie catching. She'd go out in the outfield and just being hey, Mo, come on, you got it. Don't push too much stress on yourself, you got it. So, yeah, I just had so much support. It was crazy.
And you already just threw out some names, and we go back to that point of as well. It's about those bonds that you build with people. Mm-hmm. I know you and Riley, obviously your roommates, you've gotten really, really close over the time, but what's kind of been that experience of building those relationships and those friendships for you? I mean, last night you decided y'all were going to do your press conference together.
Yeah, I'd always been told, going through, recruiting and all this stuff, that's, in college, that's where you find your best friends and, that's where you find your bridesmaids. Mm-hmm. And that is, so true to a T. Now I understand why people say it. I don't really, Riley and I, talk about this every once in a while. We, don't really know what, clicked for us. Because when I came here for my visit, obviously we stayed in the dorms with them. And, I wasn't in her room. I, barely talked to her. I texted her, one time before I got here. And I was like, hey, a dorm question or something. And in the fall, we still weren't, we didn't really talk a lot. And the spring, I don't know if it's because, in the spring we travel, we're, forced to be together all the time. Something just clicked with us. And ever since then, like, we're inseparable. You know, like, this summer she came to my hometown, I came to hers. You know, our families talk. Like, her brother, like, I feel like, you know, he's getting recruited, like, he's a big football star. You know, I'm like, okay, like, Brady's posting on Twitter, like, what coaches are watching him, you know, like, all of that stuff. And so, yeah, it's amazing. Like, and it's not even just Riley, it's, like, Delaney and just all of our teammates. Like, we're a very close team. Like, most of the time you hear, like, you know, they're only close because they have to be. You know, like, they're forced to play together. They have to be friends. But, like, truthfully, like, if we didn't have to play softball, like, we would still find our way to each other and we would still be best friends. So, yeah, I don't know what it is. We're, like, two peas in a pod. We're trying to talk our boyfriends into building us a house together, into building 2 houses connected. She's trying to get me to move to her hometown. Like, you'll hear her. She's trying. But yeah, it's just, like, I can't thank Mississippi State enough for bringing me my best friends.
And you talked about visiting each other's hometowns. You already kind of mentioned a little bit about little Elkville, Illinois.
Yep.
Oh,
but
boy.
give us a comparison of Elkville, Illinois, and Starkville, Mississippi. Because you graduated with 21 students in your high school class. It was not a large place. I think when we talked, like, your freshman year, you were telling me about how kind of there were some people that were on the softball team just because you had to get 9 so you could field a lineup.
Yep.
So just kind of comparison of Starkville and Elkville.
Okay, so let's think of it this way. I have been in a bigger, like, stats class last semester. I was in a bigger stats class compared to, like, my whole high school. Like, I had more people in that class compared to the whole entire student body in Alvarado High School. But yeah, you hear it all the time. Like, Starkville, it's like a small town in a college town. And truthfully, like, I can, like, not agree more. It's, you know, like, I think being in athletics helps us out a lot of knowing people and meeting so many different people. And there's times now, like, I can be, you know, like, downtown and I can see people I know. You know, like, I'm like, wow, it's like I'm just at home. Like, I'm going to the gas station, I'm talking to people, making their coffee. But yeah, it still feels homey. Like, there's not, you know, all the big businesses. You know, there's so many local shops that we, like, you know, shop at and we, like, support because, you know, like, that's who we are. And it's just like we're taking a little upgrade of Elkville and we're adding a big college to it and, you know, all the fun times.
Yeah. Definitely a good fit for you.
Yeah, 100%.
And T. Brett, how much time did you get to spend in Elkville during your recruiting days?
Not a lot, but I did see you at some tournaments near Elkville.
Yeah.
Good old Kansas City kind of comes to mind, so not too far away. And, you know, it's one of those, it was a contact period, so I was able to kind of hang out and talk to you after the game. But your coach kind of held the team hostage post-game. Y'all had about a 30 or 45-minute talk afterwards, and I was like, all right, I got to get to the next one. So I had to pop you a text, say, hey, good to see you. We'll catch up next time. So, but that was, you know, your recruiting journey was a unique one anyway. You know, Nadia was one of the early commits in the class of 22. But when the September 1 rule changed and you could start contacting players then, you were the first commit in, like, kind of the modern era, if you will, of modern recruiting. You were one of the first ones to commit, and you know, you said yes right away. And, you know, Southern Illinois is one of the teams that we kicked off this past weekend, and your mom works at Southern Illinois, right?
Yeah.
So it was one of those things. I think their coaches were like, wait a minute, I didn't realize Morgan had committed so soon. We never had a chance, you know. I said, well, you got to be quicker than that, like the old Farmers Insurance commercial, you know. You got to be quicker than that. But anyway, we were excited. You kind of helped kick off a pretty good 2022 class once you kind of got in the boat, and it led to, you know, some other good recruits that kind of came in the boat, Josie being one of those. And she really had her stuff going again on Saturday. You know, you mentioned early on the game won, but we got her right back out there the next day, and she really had her stuff going last night, came in, threw an outstanding last 2 innings in relief, really had her stuff moving again. So she's a big piece of what we're trying to do, and she's a big arm we're going to rely on. So good to see her getting back and getting going again.
Yeah, we're getting a little tight on our time, but I didn't want to let you go without bringing this up. You've got a lot. We've done some interviews in this room, actually, around kind of the teaching and some scholarships and awards because you want to be a pre-K teacher. On Valentine's Day, we put out a video of little Lincoln, Taryn's son, kind of going around and giving all the girls Valentines, and you're right in the middle of it, encouraging him. So just tell us a little bit about kind of how you you talked about the family atmosphere, but you and Lincoln are obviously pretty close now too, and just how that's kind of preparing you for one day being a teacher.
Yeah, I'm telling you, ever since I was little, I would come home from school. My parents got me a little easel, like whiteboard. So I would come home from school and I would teach them like what we learned in class, like, how to add and subtract and stuff. And so ever since then, I've, always known I wanted to teach. In college, I couldn't quite figure out where I wanted to teach or what age group. And finally I've settled on, like the littles. Like I like little people over big people. And so it's just amazing to see them just like grow up. Not only like just grow up and like mature, but just like being able to be like just a little part of their life. Like always like Lincoln will always know us as like his girls. Taylor and I, we for our major, we have to go to the Child Development Center on campus where Lincoln goes, and so it like makes his day every day. Coach T has came up to me so many times, and she's like, keep like talking to him, like it makes his day every day, and like that's just something. And not even Lincoln, it's like Maddox and Bailey.
Yep.
Like going to when we got invited to Maddox's birthday this fall, it just like it warmed my heart. I was like, like we've seen him like grow up. And, like we're just like that extra family for them. And even like if we have family like at home, like this is, like helping us not feel as like homesick. Like we get invited over to like your guys' houses all the time. And it just makes us feel, like loved and like that we are wanted here, like it's bigger than softball and stuff. And even like to Bailey, like I'm right there in the child development. So just seeing her like grow up and I'm like, okay, like, she's seeing red right now. Like she's starting to see the colors pop and all of that stuff. So yeah, it's fun to see.
See how the world changes from birth through the 3-year-old Lincoln up to how old is Maddox now?
Maddox is 11,
He's 11.
and Bailey will be 6 months in a couple of days. So, all the kids running around. And I think that's just a tribute to Coach Ricketts too, kind of welcoming that family environment. And, you'll come in our indoor and you'll see our kids running around and the girls are so good. It's a good thing about being a dad. You feel like at any given time you've got 22 babysitters that all love your kids too, and certainly warms my heart. And you see that with our players too, and it's just exciting to have the right kind of kids in the locker room.
Well, Mr. Coach T-Breck, sort of like Sierra Sacco, we are on rounding third, and whenever you're rounding third, you're headed home. So what is next for us in the coming days? Yeah,
we're excited. A little unique stadium coming up this weekend. We're going to go to the home of the Trash Pandas, the Rocket City Classic up in Huntsville, Alabama, which is now, Huntsville area has overtaken Birmingham as the largest city in the state of Alabama. So I think Alabama played last night against Jacksonville State to kind of kick off the 2 weeks that they're going to really have this stadium shaped into a softball field. There's talks about it possibly being a future neutral site for the tournament, for the SEC tournament. We'll kind of see what goes down the line with that. But this is kind of the inaugural event at the Trash Panda Stadium. So a really nice AA baseball facility, minor league baseball stadium. So excited to be able to kind of get down there and check all that out. We got a really strong slate of games. Louisiana Tech, North Alabama. North Alabama's hot as a firecracker right now. They're 9-0 coming in. Jacksonville State, we mentioned last night, played Alabama, really tight ball game, 7-4, I think, wound up being the final score. But I'm pretty sure they led for a big part of that game.
They led early. They were up 2-0 at one point, and then Alabama kind of took control from there, and they fought back and picked up a few more runs on the back end. But.
Yep. So kind of a unique tournament. Us, Auburn, Ole Miss, Alabama, all from the SEC are going to be there. Several other teams are as well. North Alabama, Jacksonville State, La Tech will be a good foe. Miami, Ohio. I think they hit 160 home runs a year ago. Miami did. So some really strong competition coming in this weekend. Louisiana Tech had a big win down in Puerto Vallarta opening weekend to beat Oklahoma State. I think they were ranked number 4 in the country at the time that La Tech took them down. So should be a fun weekend ahead. We're excited to get back to North Alabama. Morgan Stiles will likely have a big crowd there. She's from Athens, right down the road. So looking forward to this weekend's slate of games.
Yeah, and the one thing, the weather has changed the schedule a little bit for this weekend. So instead of playing 4 games across 4 days and starting up tomorrow was going to be a little bit too cold. So they've moved the Thursday night game to Saturday night, and they moved the Saturday night game to Saturday afternoon. So we'll play a doubleheader on Saturday now. But 4 games, 3 days, going to be up in Huntsville for the Rocket City Softball Showcase. Mr. T-Rat, you want to take it away?
Yeah, take it away. We got a big alumni group in that Huntsville area. A lot of our engineers have gone on to work in the Huntsville area. So encourage all the maroon and white faithful to come check us out this weekend in Huntsville. We're excited to get back to playing. Good weekend this past weekend. Mo Beasley, nice job. And this is the Rounding Third podcast. And for your co-host, Brian Ogden, special guest Morgan Bernardini, I'm Tyler Bratton. Thanks for tuning in, and Hail State.
Hail State.